go. So this is Emunah, page Reish Pei Vav, chapter 16 in Chelik Beis Alei Shur. Anachnu makhirim et HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitoch shalosh hitgaliyot. We know the Almighty through or via three revelations. Number one, Brias Ha'olam, creation, Genesis. Number two, Matan Torah. And number three, V'hadru'ula ha'achrona. By the way, this, we'll see, he'll go into this, elaborate this, but these three, anything in Judaism that we have three of, they all correspond to this. For example, the three meals on Shabbos, and the three prayers on Shabbos, and the three avos, and the three Beis Hamikdashes, and we could say, go ahead.
And Machal Shlama, everything corresponds to the Nefesh and Shama and Ruach. So that's the same thing.
Well, you will see this again and again and again. Fine. So Brias Ha'olam nistala HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'toch ma'asav. So by Brias Ha'olam, the Almighty's handiwork was on display. Ki b'bria anu ro'im es chachmosav es chasta. In the Bria, when we look at the creation, we see the wisdom and the kindness of the Almighty. Aval hu yisbarach atzmo nistar v'nelam. But he himself, so to speak, is concealed. B'chol zot, despite that, nevertheless, it is sufficient with introspection, contemplation in the Bria in order to arrive to Emunah and to the highest levels of Avodas Hashem. If we look in the Bria, we examine all the wonderful handiwork of the Almighty, we can use that as a catalyst, as a stepping stone towards Emunah and Avodas Hashem. Zot haita derech ha'avos ha'chdoshim. This is how the avos, our forefathers, our patriarchs, how they achieved Emunah. Like, how did Avraham Avinu achieve Emunah? So the Rambam, very famous Rambam, B'tchilas Hilchas Avodas Zara, he says, quote, Kevon shenidmal Eitan Zeh. He's talking about Avraham Avinu. Eitan. Avraham was the name Eitan, by the way. It's always it's one of the nicknames of Avraham Avinu. Eitan means the strong one. So once this strong one, he grew up, he was weaned. His chil shota b'daita, he started investigating with his mind. V'ukatan, he was small. His chil lachshav b'yom alad, he would think in day and night. V'yatmiya, and he would ask questions. He would wonder with amazement. Heich efshar sheyar gadol hazeh. How is it possible that this galaxy, nohed tamid, everything should be worked and synchronized perfectly? V'lo yelo manig, and it doesn't have someone who's in charge. Umi yisavos, and who spins it? It's not possible for it to go on its own. So who's the engine behind the universe's workings? V'lo malamed, he didn't have a teacher. V'lo modia, not an informer. Davar elam mushka b'urkazdim, rather he was mushka, means he was entrenched in urkazdim. Bain of the kachavim, he's surrounded. With. Go ahead.
Are you recording this?
Yeah, of course.
Send it to me after?
Of course. Check out my website, rebelwood.com. Musha Burkazim of Kachavim, amongst all the Gentiles, Hatipshim, the silly ones, the Aviv, the Ima, the Chola Am of the Kachavim, everyone, his father, his mother, the whole people, they're all worshipping idols, who Ovidim, and he's worshipping alongside them. However, the Libo Mishotet, in his heart, he's thinking and he's investigating. Umevin, and he's understanding. Ad Shehisid Derech ha'emes, until he acquired the way of the truth, vehivin kavat tzedek, and he understood the line of righteousness, mitvunaso hanachono, from his contemplation, his proper contemplation. V'yeda, and he knew sheyesh sham eloka echad, he knew there's one God, v'humanid hadaldol, and he oversees the constellations, v'hu bara kol, and he created everything. V'ein bakol animsel or kachos mena. There's no other deity san him. So what we're demonstrating from this is that how did Avraham Avinu achieve Emunah? What did he do? He didn't have a teacher. He didn't go to Judaism school. He didn't go to Sunday school. He didn't learn Torah, or maybe not initially. Later on, he learned Torah. He did it from the Bria. It means he used the Bria, the world, the nature, the handiwork of the Almighty, as a ways to understand and deduce the existence of the Almighty. Here, Avram Avinu Olav Hashem. That Aleph Ayin Hey is Avram Avinu Olav Hashem. Tiabore Hugam Mani Olam Towen Mashtiach Olav. So, if you actually read the words of the Rambam critically, you find that Avram Avinu is not only discovering the existence of the Creator, but he's also discovering the existence of the overseer and the conductor. So the Almighty is continually overseeing on an individual level, mashgiach, like hashgacha pratis, and sustaining the world. Fine. Now, the history of idolatry, how did it get started, right? Adam was an idolater, even though the Gemara says, Adam Rishon min haya, so he did have some degree of heresy, even though it wasn't blatant heresy. He wasn't genuflecting to idols, right? But how did it develop? So the Rambam describes in the Hatama how it was a mistake in calculation. The people, initially, they knew of the existence of the Almighty, but then they said, the Almighty created all these wonderful constellations and powers that mistame, he wants us, in probability, he wants us to also accord honor to them as a means to honor him. And then after some time, they forgot about him entirely. Gam kala umus yadu mitchila sabora. The whole nation, the whole people, everyone knew of the existence of the Bora, of the Creator. V'rak achar kach, but only post facto, afterwards, hishtabshta emunah, they distorted their emunah. V'hetchilu la'avod l'malachim, they started to worship angels, like kochavim, to stars, l'kochas agdon, to the hagashmi, to the great physical powers, hapolim ba'olam, that govern, that run in the world. By the way, you want to get a good snapshot of this, I would advise you to take a look at the Rambam in Parak Aleph, the first parak of Hilchos Avodas Kochavim Umazalos, Avodah Zarah, where he talks about the history. He goes to the history all the way to Avram Avinu, what he did and how he discovered it, and now what he did afterwards, and etc. The whole first parak is the history of the descent into idolatry and the one flicker of hope for humanity, which is the form of Avram Avinu, who develops the movement that became the family, the tribe, ultimately the nation, which is us. Fine. Raka avos ediu lemuna tahora umasra osla b'neim v'hayu gam heim ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim. The avos, they achieved the true Emunah, and they passed it on to their kids. Fine.
That's not what it says. It says only the avos.
It means only the avos, as opposed to the people of that existed there.
Oh, okay.
People of that time. Fine. So that's the example of the first kind of Emunah. But Maimed Har Sinai. So what happened Maimed Har Sinai? His Gala Kadosh Baruch Hu be'atzmo. So it wasn't just the Almighty's handiwork, but the Almighty Himself. How so? Be'amr l'klai. So when He said to Klai, so Anochi Hashem Elokecha, v'chol aseres hadibros, right? As it is recapped in Va'eschanan, in the 4th chapter of the book of Deuteronomy, Panim bepanim dibra Hashem yimachem b'har mitoch eish. Face to face, direct communication. The Almighty speak to us from on the mountain from fire. Aseres ha'ma'amoros. The 10 ma'amoros shebehem, the 10 utterances shebehem bar Kadosh Baruch Hu olam hislapshu b'toch habriya. Right. So the original 10. The 10 ma'amoros, 10 utterances they might have used to create the world, that got enveloped by the world. It means it wasn't clear. There was still some sort of it took the Emunah took form in the world. Okay. Ma'od varacha nitzav b'shamayim, like the word of God is standing in heaven. Ezo davar nitzav b'shamayim el amakash baruch hu al ma shamayim omdim. Means why is this the sky standing? Because of the will of the word of the Almighty. This is the medrash, by the way. V'tziv ki hu amar vayehi, right? Osa davar sha'amar hu asa. L'chei nemar hu tziva vayamad. B'dvar Hashem Shemayim nasu ba'osa davar shebara osam bo heim omdim la'olam l'chein nemar la'olam Hashem d'varcha nitza b'shamayim. So what does this mean? This is a description of creation. The Almighty said something, 10 utterances, and that created the world. And the world is still created because of those 10 utterances. But where do we see the Emunah? In the world. It's sort of disguised. It's masked in the creation. Hare, Dvar Hashem, the word of Hashem, Yehi Rakia, let there be a Rakia. Nislabish, it took the form, like the word levush, it took the clothing. Bashamayim hagashmiyim umerkayim osam. It took the form in the physical, in the gashmi shamayim, heavens, and that sustains it. That is the Emunah of Bris Olam. Lokin Aseres Dibrus, not like that. In contrast to that, Aseres Dibrus shehidiu eleinu b'lishum eslapshus. We heard the direct word of God. We didn't have to deduce from the Shemayim to say, oh, how is that standing? It must be the word of God. Mm-hmm. It came without it taking up any disguise. And they accepted it with nevuah. Vehein nechkiku, and it became etched. Betoch libos shishim ribu ish she'am lefnei har Sinai. It became etched in the hearts of 600,000 men that stood in front of Mount Sinai. So this is the second Hisgalos, the second revelation of the Almighty. Hisgalos Zos, this revelation, Hitchila, it began with Moshe Rabbeinu Alav Hashalom, Moshe Rabbeinu, a blessed memory, Bahar Chorev, Mitoch Hasneh, from the fire, burning bush. We read about a week and a day ago. V'nimshach b'Mitzrayim, and it continued in Mitzrayim, Aseres Anisim, Hagluyim, with the 10 revealed miracles, Kriyas Yamsuf, V'hidia l'si'ah, and it reached its pinnacle, its peak, its zenith, b'Matan Torah, in Matan Torah. Shoneh ha'emunah ha'mevuseses al esdalos zos mizu ha'mevuseses al bris olam. There is a difference. There's a distinction between this emunah, which is based on this revelation, from the emunah, which is based on the revelation of creation of the world. Why? Ki ka'amur, as we said, sham hu yisparach hamistater. There, the Almighty is concealed. Milukan. However, over here, by the revelation at Sinai, which is really the revelation in Egypt that continued throughout Sinai, hu ba'atzmo hisgale, he himself, so to speak, was revealed. Harashba, the Rashba, Mivaer, he explains, Havdelza, this distinction, this difference, Bebir shal nusach kiddush b'leil Shabbos, right, with the examination of the liturgy of the Kiddush of Leil Shabbos, of Friday night. Why? How does it start? Humas Lashon Nistar begins with a lashon of nistar, of hidden. Asher Zikaron Lama'aseh Bereshis, a remembrance to Ma'aseh Bereshis. What's Ma'aseh Bereshis? The first episode of Emunah. Okay. That's the beginning. Vahem Shech, the continuation. Zecher liatzias Mitzrayim. Kavon ha'chayt v'san gadashta mikol ha'amim. V'shabas t'anchecha ba'avo v'rasen nichaltanu. So what does it start with? We start referring to God in third person, right? He did creation. However, when we talk about Mitzias Mitzrayim, that's not about what he did and what we're, so to speak, remembering what he did. Rather, we talk to him in first person, right? He banu bacharta, you chose in us, ve'osana kedashta, and you sanctified us. We call amim. V'shabas kadshecha, and your holy Shabbos you gave to us. So we start talking in first person. Like we're not using members of Mitzrayim that the Almighty did something by members of Ma'aseh Bereshis. Mm-hmm. Rather, we're talking directly, like as if we're talking to him, straight up. With regards to Ma'aseh Bereshis, we talk to God like he, right? We're talking about him third person. V'rak me'az bachar b'klal Yisrael v'kidesh otanu b'mitzvosav, and only from then, when the Almighty selected us and sanctified us with His mitzvahs, only then do we ponim elav, do we address Him, Yisbarach b'lashon ata, we're talking about in first person, you. Bozeh notzar hayachas ben HaKlal Yisrael ben Kadosh Baruch Hu. With this, we are creating the relationship between the Jewish people and the Almighty. Mimatan Torah, from Matan Torah, nimshcha navu b'Klal Yisrael ad churban habayis harishon. From Mount Sinai until the destruction of the first temple, there was never a ceaseless nevuah amongst the Jewish people, a prophecy. It indeed continued a little bit further, right, into the beginning of the second bais. And from then henceforth, Hishtamshu Baskol, they had a Baskol. Baskol is a little bit of a lower level of prophecy. Shima Dreder Yedu Baruch HaKodesh. Umisham Nimshach Derech Hatfila Shal Klal Yisrael B'chol Dorasenu Ad Hayom Shanu Poma Kadosh Baruch Hu B'chol HaBrachos V'Atfilas B'Lashon Ata. And from then, once Nevuah ceased, then we have the formalized prayer of the men of the Great Assembly. And what is the one word that we say more than any word in our prayer services in the Amidah? It's the word Ata, you. So essentially, since Matan Torah till this very day, we have a direct connection with the Almighty. We talk to Him straight. Nevuah, right? So, where'd that come from? Right? That is the upgraded status of the Jewish people since Matan Torah. Mm-hmm. Interesting. We have a relationship. We can talk straight up. And we know that the Almighty is close to us and hears and accepts all our prayers. As it says in Vaad in Deuteronomy, who is the great nation that the Almighty is close to him? Like the Almighty, like Hashem, our God, in all our callings out to Him. So this is the second layer of revelation, where it's a revelation to us as the Jewish people, and that is heralded by Matan Torah, and that continues to this very day. There's another layer where it's not limited to our nation, it's universal. Bram, however, HaTorah nitna rak l'klal Yisrael. The Torah is given to the Jewish people. Right? A Gentile is not allowed to learn Torah. Well, at least not the things that are not relevant to him. Gemara says, okay, I'm not going to translate that. Mm-hmm. Why? The nations of the world were not ready for it, which is a very interesting way of saying that the reason why we got the Torah is because we were ready for it and they weren't. It means we're a step ahead.
You wouldn't think we were based on the Misa of after we left Egypt, 49th level of Tumah.
Well, yeah, okay. So that's an interesting question. But maybe we were ready for it, we didn't know about it. Like our neshamas were ready for it. Interesting. But we got there in time, We may have been pushed, been assisted along the way, but... And that's why the Jewish people are boded, means they're alone. They're loners in their emunah and their avoda. As much as the Gentiles, they got closer to the emunah, monotheistic emunah. Yesh hevdel rav. There is a grand difference between them and us. Like the Rambam wrote in the Ideres Taimon. Quote, Ve'ein hefresh bein daseinu zos l'shara dasos, sherotzim lidmosam eleha. The difference between our religion and other religions that try to compare to us, Ella, it's only like Kemosheyesh hefresh bein adam achai hamardish ubein atzelem shepaslu ha'uman me'etz. What's the difference? Right, what's the difference? One of them is alive. They have the same form, right? They look the same, right? Maybe in a picture they'll look the same. But one of them is alive, and one of them is dead. And it's starkly different, even though they kind of share the same contours. Oshiyatru matechas. So you make it out of wood or out of metal. V'chein kasev hakuzri ki umas hamesos, the dead nations. Asher choshveli damas leuma achaya, that wanted to compare and to be similar to the live nation. Lo yachlu el yoser min adimyon anira. They could not do that any more than just in dimyon. They kind of establishes houses for deities, but there's no reciprocation, so to speak, from the point of the deity. Hifrashu v'nozru, they were abstinent and they were ascetic. Laharos aleim nevuah v'lenaras. They tried to get prophecy, but they weren't successful. Okay, so this brings us to level 3. HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo yashir es olama b'tos olama. The Almighty will not leave His world in error forever. V'anu mitzapim, and we are awaiting lehiskalos ha'achronos tov mehera. We're waiting for the final revelation, which may come speedily. V'oz, and then yiskali chudo yisbaruch le'enei kol chai v'chol reis batel. Right, it will become known to all, and all evil will be nullified. But from our Emunah, we don't need this. We don't need that. Because our Emunah is clear, lahafli, perfectly, wonderfully. B'li hester, without any hester, without any covering. Anu ko'avim, es kvod shemayim. But we are pained by the kvod shemayim sheneschali der goyim asher yoducho b'shimcho leikaru. V'ad she'achron ha'Yehudim kam l'tchia l'chayi netzach anu nekroim od avlei Tzion. So we're still in mourning. So these are the 3 things. We start with Emunah of Brias Ha'olam, which we are able to deduce from the Olam, but we have to kind of use this intermediary. Matan Torah, we talk to God straight up, and then the final Geula is for everyone. That's what we call Mashiach. Mm-hmm. By the way, very cool, famous Gemara. The Gemara says that the world is a 6,000-year world. Correct? What year are we in now? Drum roll, please.
37, 75, 6.
Yeah, rounding error, right? Yeah. Now, but that's what the Gemara says, right? What else does the Gemara say? Eric, what else does the Gemara say?
That same Gemara?
Yeah, same Gemara in Sanhedrin, 99. So that's the famous part of the Gemara, 6,000 years. What the Gemara also says is that it's broken down into 3 epochs.
Oh, yeah.
Right? 2,000 year each. Right? Epoch spelled E-P-O-C.
What's the first one? The 2,000 of nothing.
2,000 years of Tohu. 2,000 years of Torah. 2,000 years of Mashiach. And if you look at the commentators, they point out that Avram Avinu was born in the year 1948. At the age of 52, he started learning Torah. As the Medrash says, at the age of 52. So at exactly the year 2000, he started learning Torah. So what does that mean? There's Tohu, right? Until Avram Avinu comes, and he's established the Emunah. What Emunah is that? It's the Emunah of Bris Olam. And then that ushers in the next era, which is the next era of Emunah, which is Torah. So that's obviously Avram Avinu starts it, but it's culminated by the Jewish people being established as a nation. And then you have 2,000 years of Torah where only the Jewish people have this Emunah. And what have we experienced in the last 2,000 years, by the way, this is a little bit of a controversial point, but it's not that controversial because I finally found the Rambam.
Christianity and Islam?
Booyah. So what does that mean? Right? That means that there is a universalization of a variant of our faith, right? Not a variant, but a poor imitation like we saw. But the main strokes, so to speak, are becoming ubiquitous. Mm-hmm. And there's a Rambam, by the way, very hard Rambam to find because it was expunged from many editions of the Rambam. But there's a Rambam that says that the purpose of Christianity and Islam is to make the broad strokes of Emunah universal, and then Mashiach is going to come and just going to make slight tinkering and adjustments in their flawed Emunah, and then bring the world to perfection. And that's the last 2,000 years, which is Mashiach. I understand. So it's a 2,000-year process of teaching the whole world about the existence of the Almighty and our Emunah. How's that? Very interesting. Fine. Okay. Let's continue.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Someone told me the other day that the Rambam holds that Christians are monotheistic. Like, we're not allowed that in church.
Right, it's Avodah Zarah. What does monotheistic mean? The Ram doesn't talk about monotheism. It is Avodah Zarah, clearly. That's the Rambam in Yigeres Teimon. As opposed to Islam is not.
Right.
Islam is not. Yeah.
We've read like a reliable source. I'm not sure about that.
Source it. It's probably this Rambam, because that's the only one that would maybe even say that.
I'm going to trade off and come here too, but she needs a babysitter. You didn't hear me though, did you?
No, you were on mute. What do you say?
Okay.
So no, Christianity is Avodah Zarah, clearly. Well, I say clearly because it might be shutfus. The Gemara as a whole, there's a whole Gemara. If it's Emunah b'shutfus, is that Avodah Zarah or not? But simply, we say that it's Avodah Zarah.
Yeah.
Okay, Brias Olam, Matan Torah, Vahatzipia Leguula, Kol Tfilasino Astros Bahen. All of our prayers deal with Brias Olam, Matan Torah, and the anticipation of the Re'ula. Ubamud B'Emanu Chayim, and in Emunah these we live. Kol Shlosh Emunah Nechlal Behem Ubechol Hamishtamea Mehem. By the way, if you look at the 13 principles of faith, and you look at the Sefer Ikrim with the artists of the Rambam says no, there's only 3 principles of faith that actually are saying the same thing, right? Because what are the 3 principles? By the way, every time you hear the word 3, it should ring a bell should ring in your head because this is the same 3 things. 3 principles are the existence of the Almighty, the existence of Nevuah, and the existence of Schar Va'onish. Voila! What do you have? Brias Olam, existence of the Almighty, Torah, which is Nevuah, and Schar Va'onish, which is Mashiach, which is this last level of Emunah. And the Rambam, he has 5, 4, and 4, but it's the same thing. It's 5 elements in Emunah, in the Brias Olam, in the Almighty. It's 4 elements in Nevuah, and it's 4 things Schar Va'onish. The mind is Yodea, that Yodea Machshavosam, Schar Va'onish, Tchias HaMesim, and Mashiach. Booyah. Interesting, yeah? Ata. Now, Bo va'arecha ma'asid katan shel avoda, a small activity of avoda, hakolal emunah b'shloshes grados elu. One small action that has emunah in all these 3 revelations. Amar shlakish, tol ona amen b'chol kocho, poschem lo shar gan eden. Someone who says amen with all his koach, they open all the gates of Gan Eden. Shneimar pischu sha'orim v'yavod tzadik shomer emunim, al tikre shomer emunim el sha'omrim amen. Open up the gates for he who says amen. Man amen. My amen. What does it mean amen? Amar Chanina el melech ne'amon. Rashi kach meid al boro shu el melech ne'amon. So what does that mean? So turn the page. Hashem. Let's start with the Aleph. Elokim. Hu Hashem shel midas chasto yisparach. Asher olam chesed yibaneh. Melech. So that's the first one. Brias Olam. Melech nihiyah kadosh baruch hu aleinu al yidei kabbalas haTorah. Nemon. Every time it says Nemon, like we had last week's parsha, right? Nemon hu lahavi es hageula v'lahachios mesim. Harei ba'anias amen mehadhed. It's like there's a shrill, so to speak. There's a tzlil, which is a noise. Shel shalosh hisdalios of the 3 hisdalios of the 3 revelations. Someone who says amen with all his koach, who ma'avir matzmo et kol hester ponim, he removes from himself all of hester ponim. V'chai ba'olam shebaru galoi. He lives in a world that the Creator is revealed. He's in Gan Eden. Hashachasam lachasa gluya v'yichra shalom. The hashtracha and the kingdom of the Almighty is known to all. V'yichra shalom, and the perfect yichra Hashem omen lizdalos b'chol rega is standing to be revealed in every second. Lefnei ona amen. Lefnei ona amen al derech zu niftachim shar Gan Eden. So before someone who says amen in this manner, are opened all the gates of Gan Eden. V'hu meitzis l'tochon, able to peer inside of it. Gan Eden hu olam agoli below bli hester ponim, because that's what it means. Gan Eden is the world that's revealed without hester ponim. Ishi talmid chacham. The author is talking to us. Not to us, but whatever, to Eric. Ha'im erdashta pam.
I didn't want to say that, but thank you.
Ha'im erdashta pam. Did you once feel kisha amarta amen, when you said amen, et atochen ha'adir b'milat tanasu, the tremendous substance in this small word? Hein, indeed. Zet Sarich Islamdus Meruba. We have to do a lot of Islamdus. Achan Ardil Anias Amen Kazu until we reach saying Amen thusly. V'lo b'chol tishim ha'amenim she'onim b'chol yom, and not in all the 90 amens that we say every day, nuchal lechaven kach, can we have such kavana. However, ninaseh, let us try, lehislamed bezeh, ba'amen yesh merabah b'boker, l'fnei baruchu, in amen yesh merabah in the morning, before baruchu, u'b'mincha b'mayr l'fnei shmona esrei. Let's try to maybe make a note of it then, to say amen with channeling this, these foundational ideas of our Emunah that are encapsulated in this seemingly really small and minor and insignificant word that we say, or we are likely to say without even thinking about it out of rote.
Do you mind recapping the
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
The whole thing? Or the
no,
Amen?
just the Amen. Yeah.
Right, so Amen, the Gemara says, is Kel Melech Namon,
Right.
Aleph Mem Nun, and each one of these words, if onto their own, refers to a different one of these three Emunahs. Kel refers to Olam Chassid Yibana, creating the world. Melech is Kabbalas Torah, when the man becomes a king over us. And Namon is Charva Unesh, right, which comes by the Gula.
Wait, why is each?
I'm sorry?
What's the connection between each and all three?
Yeah, so Kel Melech Namon, each word refers to one of these three.
No, I understand. But
Go
what
ahead.
is the connection? What is Kel? What is
So he said Kel is the Shem Shal Midas Chasta Yisparach, the Chesed of the Almighty. And where was the Chesed manifest more than anywhere else? Olam Chesed Yibana. The world is created with Chesed.
Why is Kel connected
To Midas Chasta, I don't know. Melech, when does it become a Melech? When there's an Am, when there's a people, right? You can't have a king, a Melech below Am, you can't have a king without a nation, right? Mm-hmm. So when did the Almighty become a king? When we became his nation. And Namon, when we trust the Almighty, what does it mean to trust the Almighty? It means to know that there's going to be something in the future. It can't be in the past. Mm-hmm. Right? That's, so to speak, what we would render maybe as faith in English. We have to have faith, right? We trust the Almighty that He's good for His word. If you notice, in the beginning of last year's Parshas of Eira, we had the Almighty telling Moshe that I appeared to Abram, Isaac, and Jacob, Bekel Shakai. Mm-hmm. However, Shmi Hashem lo nodati lahem. So Rashi says, Nemon, that I'm believed to actually make good on my pledges. Hmm. So Nemon means the Almighty we trust the Almighty to make good on His pledges. And when's that? By the Ula Sida, when we have Schar Vonish. So that's that, guys. It's this is the three elements of our Emunah. By the way, if you look at, if I remember correctly, I haven't done this in a long time, so I may be wrong. If I remember, when he talks about Shabbos, let's see, Shin Pei Beis. This is his angel on Shabbos as well. If I remember correctly, I may be wrong. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that on Shabbos as well, he makes this point. How Shabbos is this, it's this encapsulation of Emunah on these three levels. That's that, guys. Next week, B'ezras Hashem, we will start with the first Vaad. This seems like it was an introduction. We have many Vaadim. I'm looking forward to going through them one by one. Together with y'all. 10 Vaadim. And they're actually all pretty substantial. Okay, so that's that. Let's move on. Are we good? We're good to move on?
I don't